Hey everyone, today I'm going to talk to my favorite guest, Dr. Jamil Sayegh, about something we kind of went back and forth on Facebook actually, about something he posted. I loved it and I commented on it and I said, hey, we should do a show about that, talk to people about that. So it's about commitment. But first, for people who haven't heard Dr. Jamil before, so he's multi-talented. So he's a doctor of naturopathy. He's also energy healer, coach, and also a meditation expert. So multiple things. So you can reach out to him, whatever you want to reach him about. He also has a new, essentially, I think, mastermind being set up, which he probably will share. So I guess Dr. Jamil, kind of, I don't know, whatever else you want to share, and also your new group you're creating, the mastermind. If you want to share that too, please.
I so appreciate that opportunity, Raju. Yeah, thank you. It's something that I'm really excited about and near and dear to my heart. And I appreciate the introduction and won't add much besides just I hope that our listeners really show up and be present for our conversation because I know it'll rock their world. And I know if they're open to it, they're going to leave this conversation with something that'll shift the way they live their whole life. And as it relates to the group, so the group is called Ascension, and it's a beautiful group. And the way I designed it, it's a community of leaders, champions, and high performers who are coming together because they want to experience more happiness, more peace, more fulfillment as they're creating what I call an extraordinary life without regret. And just so I can define some terms, a leader, a champion, and a high performer, it's not something that you're born as that. Some people hear those words and they think, oh, I wish I could be that. A leader, a champion, a high performer is a choice that you make moment to moment. And my own definitions of it, yours may be different, but for me, a leader is a person that it's not about me, it's about we. I want to make a positive impact, a positive difference beyond just myself. It's my family, it's my company, it's my community, it's the world, depending on how big my vision is. When I think about a champion, this is somebody who says, I want to be the best there is at the thing that matters most to me. I'm willing to make the sacrifices and do what it takes. And when I think about a high performer, this person's saying, I want to be the best that I can be at the things that matter most to me. When people have that type of mentality, I find that what we can create together, there's no limit to that. And so when a community of people like that come together, the sky's the limit of what we can do week over week. And so that's the idea of the community. And if you go to my website, jamilsayegh.com, there's a tab, it's called Ascension. You click that, you can read about it. And then there's a link if you want to book a short call, we can talk about what it looks like.
Awesome. And I'll be posting, obviously, Dr. Jamil's links and all that stuff. So I will be posting the Ascension. But I mean, if you go to his website, you'll clearly see, when you go to it, there'll be the Ascension tab and you can just go get the information there. But let's get on to our topic, which kind of, I think, transitions there. Just going back to my own background, I've done a lot of personal development. One of that is Landmark, which kind of Dr. Jamil is very familiar with. We talked about this. And one of the seminars I attended was about commitment, which kind of rocked my world about commitment, what I used to think about commitment. And then now I look at it differently. Whether I do things I commit to or not, I know where my commitment lies. And after, when I do it or don't do it. So with that, Dr. Jamil, I'll let you go first, and maybe I'll, talk in the middle of my own input. So what is commitment? What do people miss about commitment?
All right. So I love it because it's broad enough that we could take this in a lot of different ways. The first thing that's coming to mind to share, and I want to preface this actually, I'm going to just speak as, free flowing as possible. And there's things that I can already tell that what I say could be potentially received in a way that I don't mean it. Mm-hmm. And so I really want to make sure people understand everything I say is within the context of all the love and respect for you in the world and wanting you to thrive and live the life that you want. So please keep that in mind. Mm-hmm. So if somebody were to ask me, what am I committed to? I would tell them, look at your life right now as it's lived. The results you're experiencing right now in each area of your life, that's exactly what you're committed to. Because if you look at the results that you're creating, those aren't an accident. if your physical health isn't where you want it to be, if your relationship health, if your financial health, if any area is not what you want it to be, you're the cause of that. Now, that doesn't mean that there aren't other factors, but first and foremost, it's your life. If it's not your responsibility, whose is it? So if we come from that space of what am I committed to? Well, look at my results. If I wanted to lose 30 pounds and I gained 30 pounds, that was my commitment. Because if I say, let me see your calendar, let me see your daily planner, let me see your bank statement, how you spend your money, how you spend your time, how you spend your money, how you spend your attention, your energy, that's what you're committed to. So there's what you say you're committed to, and there's what your life actually represents. And so if you can be honest with yourself and take that good hard look and say, where is my mouth not matching up? The way I heard this recently from a teacher of mine, he said, your audio isn't matching your video, which I love that. What you're saying, your talk is not matching your being, how you're showing up in the world. And so if you can start there, look at your life. My life is an expression of what I'm committed to. And if I don't like it, why have I been committed to the wrong things? And you might say, but I'm not committed to that. But if you've been creating the results you don't want for an extended period of time, it's like the moment you realize I don't want this, but you keep creating it, it's not an accident at that point. It's a choice. And this thing's called secondary gain as an example. Here's this problem that I'm experiencing in my life, and I don't want it anymore, but I keep repeating the cycle. Why? Because consciously or unconsciously, keeping this around is benefiting me at some level. Otherwise, I wouldn't keep it around. So very often secondary gain is what's driving this. But the point being, look at your world right now, whatever results you're experiencing, that's what you're committed to. And the moment you see that and you recognize, well, I don't like that, what do you want instead? And then what would it look like to be committed to creating that result? Are you willing to make that sacrifice? Because everything in life, it's about sacrifice. This idea that if I want something, I have to give something else up to have it. I'm either giving up my time because I can't do two things at once. So either if I say I really want to go on vacation tomorrow, and I live in New York right now, so it's like part of me wants to go to Canada and part of me wants to go to Mexico, but it's going to be tomorrow. I'm not going to do both. Like I have to pick one. And once I make the commitment to one, I'm saying no to the other. Some people may have heard the word decision. The root of that word, I believe it's side. And side means to kill off. And so when you think of like genocide, homicide, suicide, that type of root in there. And so when you think of B-side, you're cutting off whatever other options and you're going all in on the one that you choose. You're deciding and everything else gets killed. And so in that same way, that's commitment. Commitment is not, I make a distinction with my clients, commitment or committed versus interested. If I say, what's the difference? Interested is like I'm window shopping. Committed is like, here's the money. Interested is, this would be nice if it's comfortable, if I'm in the mood, if I woke up on the right side of the bed, like whatever you want to think about, then I'll do it. But commitment, like I forgot where I heard this, it's a quote, but the idea is that a true commitment is when you do something long after the feeling has passed in which you made that commitment. So you made the commitment in the moment that it felt really good. You felt so aligned and you said, I'm going to do that. Fast forward an hour, a week, a month, whatever the time frame is. And now you're not in the mood and you're really stressed out and you got a lot going on. And there's that commitment on the calendar. It's tomorrow morning. And 85% of you is wanting to back out. If you listen to that, it was never a commitment. It was a wish. It was an interest. And so the last thing I'll share before I throw it back to you is just, if you got in your soul, like embodied knowing what a commitment really is, your entire world would change. And there's so much more I can say about that, but I'm going to pause and I'm sure we'll go back and forth and I'll get to it.
Sure. So yeah, no, I just want to get to that same thing about not doing things right. So this is what Dr. Jamil was saying, exactly what I got during my landmark and kind of change of perspective. It doesn't mean everything I say I'll do will be done, but I do know where my commitment is when I don't do things now, right? I look at myself honestly and say, look, okay, yeah, I kind of want to do it, but really that's not where my commitment is. So that kind of leaves me with freedom, not to lie to myself or being frustrated about it. Oh, I didn't do this, I didn't do that. No, I wasn't committed to doing that. I had a different commitment, because the factor is, like, for example, my health, I'm very committed, and that shows up. That shows up every day. Every day. I don't pick up a phone. I don't check my phone for almost first 3 hours of the morning, because I'm doing my meditation, exercise, all that stuff before I even take a look at my phone.
Yeah.
That's because I'm committed to that. It doesn't matter. No excuse unless there is an emergency. So I'm just putting that for people to put it in the context of what Dr. Jamil was saying. So that way you guys understand, like, okay, maybe he's a coach, hey, he does everything that I don't know. I'm talking about myself, that I know when I don't do things, that I know where my commitment is. I don't no longer lie to myself about, I was committed. Why didn't I do that? No, it's just, I just didn't want to get up in this morning. Okay. That's my commitment, not to get up this morning.
Yes. What you just said, that part at the end is so key. It's, I wanted to do A and I did B. Well, why'd I do B? Because in the moment, that was my commitment. And if I can own that, I find beating ourselves up to be fairly useless, and all it does is waste time. And so just own the fact that you didn't do whatever it is that you thought you quote unquote should have done, or whatever it was, and you make the new choice. But like, for example, in my own life, if I tell myself I'm going to do something, whatever it might be, a workout or like marketing or whatever it's going to be, I'm going to do that later on today at 4 o'clock or something, and then I don't do it, I'm not going to delude myself with some, oh, like I got busy or this happened or that happened. I'm just going to own I chose not to do it. And the moment I say that, like, I'm off the hook. It's like I chose not to do it. And every moment I can make a new choice. And so there's no like shaming, blaming, guilt. There's none of that. It's just actually look at your life. There's a life that you have now, and there's a life that you say that you want. And we said earlier, there's a sacrifice. So it's like, if A is where I am and Z is where I want to get to, the rest of that alphabet, B through Y, there's like a bridge.
Mm-hmm.
And the bridge is the actions that I'm willing to take, the things I'm going to say no to, how I'm going to spend my time, the decisions I'm going to make, what habits and rituals and all those things, because whatever you're committed to might take a while to manifest. It's one thing if I say I'm going to go for a walk today. That can be really hard for some people. So I honor if that's where you're at. And if you're doing that, amazing. For somebody else, it's like, I'm committed to growing this business from scratch to like 6, 7, 8 figures or more. That's not happening by tomorrow. So now there needs to be an ongoing commitment. And then a question I ask every one of my people that I'm close with, as well as I'm going to ask of everyone listening, 2 things. What are you doing on a daily basis to keep your commitment alive? So it's like, what do you do on a daily basis to remind yourself of what you're going after, of why it matters, so that when life gets hard, when you get challenged, when you fall down metaphorically, what gets you back up? When you don't feel like it, what gets you doing it anyway? And I also want to balance this with, this is not meant to be some like drill sergeant approach, right? There is something called, that I will call, let's say, innate wisdom. Sometimes procrastination is innate wisdom. You're not doing it because you actually don't want to do it.
Right.
So you made a commitment saying, I'm going to do whatever it is. But you actually only made that commitment because you thought that's what you were supposed to do based on what your community or your family or society you thought is like kind of imposing on you. So there you are making the commitment, I'm going to do X, but your heart's not actually in it. You don't really even want it, but you said yes. And I find that we get in trouble when we say yes when we actually mean no. And so if you were to own, what kind of life do I actually want? Am I procrastinating? The story is like, oh, I'm lazy, or I'm a procrastinator, or we identify with some label. But it's all just a story. Let's get rid of that. And let's just say, do I actually want this thing? Like, and why? Because I have to want it enough. Because, evolutionarily, at least, we're going to take that path of least resistance if we're not super intentional. If something's uncomfortable, evolutionarily, we're pretty much designed to move away from that. But we live in a world nowadays that there's times where you're going to do things, and at least the way that you're doing it might be uncomfortable at times. If I want to be a speaker, but I've never done it before, the first time, second time, third time, it might be uncomfortable. But doing it's going to get me the life that I want, and not doing it is just me repeating the story. One day I'll be a speaker, but I'm not speaking. I remember telling a good friend of mine, he told me years ago, my dream is to be a writer. He told me that for years. And I remember this guy's like one of my best friends, and we're really honest with each other. And he's telling me about all these courses that he's taking about writing. He's telling me about the books that he's reading about writing, but he's doing everything other than writing.
Right.
So I said to him, can I be honest with you? And we were having dinner, I believe, or lunch or something. And he goes, please. And I said, you're not a writer, you're a reader. And that hit him like a ton of bricks, and he got it. Because what do writers do? They write. What do runners do? They run. It's not rocket science. Whatever it is that you say that you are, do that. And so if you're saying, like, I'm a committed parent, I'm a loving spouse, are you being that? Like, you could say it, but what's the commitment? And where is your commitment when you don't feel like it anymore? Because if the commitment disappears when you don't feel like it anymore, it wasn't a commitment. And so one thing I'd love to just bring into this. So a word that I use up there with commitment is integrity. And so when I think of integrity, there's different ways it can be defined. One of my definitions is when what I think, what I say, and what I do are all in alignment. Another way of saying it is being my word. And so if I commit to you, the listener, and I say, so I'll give you an example. If you call me at 9 p.m. tonight, at the end of this interview, basically, and you say, hey, Jamil, I'm so sorry for the last minute call. And imagine we live in the same town. Could you take me to the airport tomorrow morning? And I say, what time? And you go, I need you to be at my house at 4:30 a.m. And I go, 4:30. And then I say, well, I'm going to sleep on it, and I'm going to see how I feel in the morning, and, I'll try.
Yeah.
And then we get off the call. And then your friend, your partner, your kid, somebody says, is Jamil taking you to the airport tomorrow? The most honest answer you could give is, I don't know, probably not. So what does that mean? Can you go to bed now, or can you just relax for the evening at peace? No, because you can't count on that. So you have to call somebody else. Until you get a yes, I'm going to be there, you're not going to be able to relax. So now let's say alternate reality. You call me, same setup, and you say, will you take me to the airport tomorrow morning? And I go, what time? And you say 4:30. And I say, Raju, I will be at your house at 4:15. I'll have like a coffee or a tea or whatever you like in the car with me, and we're going to have a great trip. Then you get off the call, and whoever says, is Jamil taking you to the airport tomorrow? And you go, yep, we're all good. Think about the feeling that's different in those two scenarios when you hang up the phone. One of them is, like crossed off the list, checked off, I got a ride. The other one is like, fuck, what am I going to do? Pardon the language. But coming from that space, it's like, you got to be, you don't have to be, but if you want to represent integrity, you have to be your word. Like, what does your word mean? Can I count on your word? I love the perspective of, let's say, a bridge. A bridge has what we call a bridge that's well made, has structural integrity. And so, meaning you can drive across this thing or walk across this thing, and you might be afraid it's going to fall, but 99 times out of 100, it doesn't, even more than that. But the point being, it almost never falls. Why? Because it's made properly. So when it's made properly, structural integrity means I can count on it. So I can drive across it with no fear. Is your word like that? Can I count on your word that you said you were going to show up for me, and I can bet the farm on it? I can put all the money I've got on this because I know you're going to keep your word. But the thing is, in my experience at least, and I know people don't do this intentionally the vast, vast majority of the time, but the vast majority of people aren't their word when it's time to be their word. They say one thing and they do another. one example that came up for me several times in the last couple of months, whether it's a family member, usually it's family, but a family or a friend or something, somebody might say, hey, we should get dinner this week. And I'll say, I'd love to. I'm available Tuesday and Thursday night. Let's do Thursday. Great. The 7 p.m. work? That sounds awesome. I get off the call. It's on my calendar immediately. It's on the whiteboard. It's on the calendar. I don't take calls at 7 p.m. work-wise, but if I did, it would have been blocked out. So now, like, nobody can schedule. If someone called me and said, hey, Jamil, you want to do whatever at 7 p.m.? No, I already have a commitment. I appreciate it so much. What other days can you do? So then it comes Thursday, and I might send a message to my friend, my cousin, whoever, and I might say, hey, really looking forward to seeing you tonight. I'll be there at 7. I forgot, and I actually made plans with somebody. And in my mind, he's like, that was 2 days ago, or it was 3 days ago. You didn't write it down? You didn't like put it somewhere where you'd remember that you said you were going to be there somewhere? And I don't say that with judgment, even though it might sound that way. It's coming from a space of an observation that, what does that show me? And not just me, Jamil, but if it was you, what does that show you? That you can't rely on that person at least as much as you could potentially rely on a person. It's possible that in an emergency, that was just dinner. In an emergency, they would show up, hopefully.
Right.
But wouldn't you rather be the person and have the person in your life that when you say something's going to happen, it does? Because when you do that, you're training yourself that when I say something, it's going to happen. That's so powerful, because what most of us do, whatever you practice, you get good at. Most people practice breaking their word to themselves over and over and over again. And every time they give themselves a pass. Every time they've got some excuse about why they broke their word. Regardless of the reason you give, what's the end of it? Like the end all be all? Like, well, what's that expression? Get down to brass tacks kind of thing. What's the outcome? You didn't do it. And so you didn't do it. You said you would. And if you always have a reason, like look at the last 10 times you didn't do something you said you were going to do. Why didn't you do it? And if you have a consistent excuse, it could be different, but a consistent theme of excuses, that's what you're practicing. But what if, and the beauty is you can change at any moment. Right now, you could say, you know what, I'm not that good at commitment. Awesome. Make a commitment to go get a glass of water and actually do it. Like do it immediately. That's a win. Make a commitment to make your bed. Make a commitment to go for a walk. Make a commitment to just text somebody and then do it. You're getting small wins, but you're building up the new identity. I am the type of person that keeps my word. And now there's 2 ways to keep your word, at least 2 ways. One way is, well, it's probably just 2. One is to do what you said you were going to do. That's the primary way. The secondary way, which is still in integrity, is when you recognize that you're not going to be able to keep your word, you let the person or the people know, and then you recreate a new agreement. So if I were to say to Raju, hey, I know we have dinner plans Thursday at 7, and something came up, and I know that you and I have an agreement to come to this dinner. I really need to work on this thing. I deeply apologize because I know that, somebody else you probably said no to because you said you were going to be with me. Can we reschedule? Can I make it up to you? Can I make this right? And you might say, hey, it's no problem. How about we do the next day or something? Or you might say, yeah, I appreciate that because that does inconvenience me because I said no to other things to do this with you. But at least now we're on the same page. I've had people 30 minutes before what we were supposed to do tell me when I texted them, hey, I'm on my way. I completely forgot. And so when you come from that space, you can clean up the mess that you make in other people's lives and in your own by owning it. That's how you step back into your integrity. So when you bring them together, integrity, being your word, and commitment, long past the feeling that you had when you made the commitment, can you still honor that? And side note, I also come from a space of this might not be real for you anymore. Meaning, let's say you committed to a career thing or a relationship thing, and you're 6 months in, you're a year in, you're 5 years in. It's also possible that that career, that goal, that relationship isn't right for you anymore. And so if it's not right for you anymore, keeping the commitment just because you said you would, at that point, it's destructive. And so that's where it's a paradox, because on the one hand, I'm saying, where's your commitment when you don't feel like it? And on the other hand, I'm saying, if you really don't feel like it, you shouldn't do it. But this is the nuance. If I don't feel like it, but I do genuinely want the outcome, honor the commitment and do it anyway. And hopefully you can shift the way you're relating to the situation so you can actually enjoy it and want to do it. But the flip side, I'm not feeling like doing this, but it's actually because it's not my path anymore. I'm making a pivot in my life and my career. I'm not going to live here anymore, whatever it is. This isn't an authentic yes anymore. At that point, the greatest thing you could do is clean up the mess, say no, clean up the mess, and then say yes to what's authentic for you. And so I want to pause there because I feel like that was a lot.
Yeah, no, I have several points to make, but now I lost in my thoughts. But there's a critical point you did make there, though, at the end, though, about changing or not sticking to something just because you made a commitment. I've learned that lesson myself, right? In the sense that relationship-wise or something you're committed to doing, you thought it was great, but then you go along, you find out, oh, this is not the one I wanted. I mean, yeah, I made it, I give my word, and I'll usually, always think I'm my word, but I guess, yeah, I got, it's not. Because if it's not obviously speaking to you anymore, you have to be honest and say that. And last word I'll say is, you're exactly right about people not being their word, because many people, most of us, including me, many times, in the name of looking good, because we're putting that mask on for people to believe who we are, we say things and commit or say things. I don't know commitment. That's not a commitment in my vocabulary, right? That's we try to, I'll be there. Whenever the try word comes, now I know they're not going to come. Yeah. Or they're not going to do whatever they're saying. Try means you're not going to do it most of the time. There's some people, it's occasionally different. But anyway, talking about that. So if, the whole going back to the commitment thing, if once you start becoming honest with yourself, at that point, it doesn't become a breaking a commitment when something is not speaking to you. You can be honest with yourself and the other person, telling them, hey, look, or other person, other group, whatever, the job, whatever you're talking about, is tell them, hey, look, this is what I thought. This is not, kind of jamming with me anymore. I don't feel it. I don't want to do it anymore, whatever that is. Being honest, whether it pisses them off or not, that's a different deal. Doesn't matter, because you got to do the right thing. So anyway, with that,
Yeah, it's a few things to go off of what you just shared. For anyone who's got kids, and if you don't have kids, you'll still be able to relate to this intellectually. When you say to a kid, hey, like, we're going to do this, and they look at you and they say, do you promise? The moment you say yes, and this is assuming like you've kept promises up until this point, the moment you say yes, in their mind, it's done. Like, they're counting on this. What's the, at least stereotypically, what's the thing that you hear when you don't deliver? But mom, dad, you promised. And then as an adult, you're trying to rationalize but like these things happened. But as a child, all they're hearing, you didn't do what you said you were going to do. So then what happens the next time you say, yeah, we'll do that, I promise? They might say, like last time, you promised last time too, and you didn't do it. So immediately you just went from superhero to villain. You went from like, my word is my bond to I can't count on you. Right. And when you play in that realm, it's like, it's kind of black and white. And so the other thing to be with as well, I just mentioned kids. So think about it like this. Anyone who has kids, and if you don't, you still relate to it. If I were to say to you, will your kids or your child starve? First answer, yes or no. Everyone says no. And I might say, you sound pretty sure. Like, how do you know that? And they go, well, my kid's not going to starve. I'm not going to let that happen. Yeah, but what if like your favorite grocery store is closed? I'll go to another one. What if that one's closed? I'll go to another one. What if they're all closed? I'll borrow it from my neighbor. I'll go to family. I'll steal it. I'll do whatever I got to do. My kids are going to eat. Now, that is a true commitment. Now, I want you to notice when you think about your goals and your dreams, do you have that same commitment? So you say, I'm going to get into the best shape of my life. And let's say you identify what that means. X amount of weight or muscle mass or body fat or something, certain appearance that you want to go after. It could just be an energy, vitality thing, whatever you're looking for. And just like I say, are your kids going to starve? No. And then your kids eat. If I say, are you going to accomplish that in the next 6 months? Can you just say yes and no with 100% certainty because you know you will do everything possible? Anything short of that, you're doing yourself a disservice because your business, as an example, if you have one, your business is like a baby. So will your baby starve? Well, it will if you don't feed it. And how do you feed it? Customers, clients, money, like that's how you feed it. And so will you do what it takes to get that? And if you can't just say yes to it, you're not as committed as you could be. No judgment on that. It's just an observation. You're not as committed as you could be. Would you like to raise your level of commitment? And the answer is just yes or no. And there's no shame in no. But if the answer is yes, you can make that change. And like I had one of my clients, I told him this a few months back and it changed everything for him. I tell this guy, he's very busy and very successful in his career, and everyone's vying for his attention. And so we're having a session and he's telling me about a bunch of things that he's not having time to do that are really important to do. And when I hear that, I don't think time management problem. I think people pleasing problem. Because why are you saying yes?
A bunch of things, yeah.
And so all of a sudden we're going through all the things he says yes to. And I said earlier, you get in trouble when you say yes when you mean no. That's when you build resentment and frustration for yourself and others. And so is this a hell yes for you? No. Is that a hell yes for you? No. Why'd you say yes to them? Because they asked. All right, now what's that yes costing you? Now you don't have time to do these 3 things. Now you're the bottleneck because your team's waiting on you. And so now your whole business is getting put back, or your family's getting upset because they're not spending time with you. And so I told him, and this is what I'm sharing with our whole audience, I want your default answer. This isn't what you say. This is just in your mind. Your default answer to every request is no. And your actual verbal response is, hey, Mary, Raju, Mohammed, Cindy, whoever, do you want to do this? Or could you help me with that? Hey, I appreciate you asking. I've got a lot of commitments on my plate right now, so I'm going to check my schedule. I'll let you know tonight, or I'll let you know tomorrow. That gives you time to actually think about it, because most people just say yes instinctually. They say yes, and then they didn't realize that they double booked something. Or they say yes because they kind of felt awkward in the moment because they didn't want to say no. But the moment you say yes to something you don't actually want to do, who you're going to be as a result of that, it's not a nice version of you. Like if you invite me to a party and you're excited about this party, it's your party, you're putting it on, you want the people who be there to love it, to have a great time. If I really don't want to go and you invite me and I say yes and I show up with this low energy, I can't believe I'm here, I'm bringing the party down. Like it's in the best interest of everyone that I'm not there. And so me letting you know, hey, I've got a few other commitments, I can't do it. Or even if it's just, I appreciate you offering that to me. I'm very clear right now on what I'm committed to creating in my life. And I can see this is really important for you. This isn't in alignment with the life that I'm wanting to create for myself. So I'm going to pass on it and I trust it'll go beautifully. Now, sometimes it's a family, it's a close friend, they need your help. And just like before, if you didn't honor the commitment, you said you were going to do something, you didn't do it, own it and make a new choice. You don't beat yourself up. In that same way, a friend of mine is asking me, hey, can you help me move or something? And maybe that's not my ideal Thursday or Saturday or something. But okay, I'm willing to help my friend. And so I'm just going to own the fact that I'm going to say yes and I'm going to make the most of it. But be aware of where you make it a habit that you're saying yes so often when you actually mean no. Like when my friends asking me to help, I'm all in on the yes, even though like I would have probably preferred to do something else at that time. Once I say yes to it, I'm committed to having fun. I'm committed. We're going to laugh. We're going to connect. It's going to be a beautiful experience. I'm not going to say yes and then do it drudgingly. I'm not going to say yes and then just like pout as I'm doing it. I can't believe I'm here. No one made me be here. I said yes. And so when we come from that space, your whole life shifts, up levels, whatever word you want to use. When you are in integrity, our yeses and all my no's are no's. My no is as powerful as my yes, and that no isn't a bad word. A lot of people think, excuse me, there's a lot of people that have grown up, and I was one of these people until I got older and I learned this. I thought no was a bad thing. Like you don't say no. Like that's a why would you say no? People won't like you. If you say no, you get in trouble. If you say no, you get punished. But the thing is that if you don't honor your no, you're going to say yes when you mean no, and now you're going to say no to the things that are most important to you. So I say yes to all these things that I actually don't really care about. And now my family suffers, my business suffers, my client suffers, I suffer, my whole life quality goes down. And then I'm going to say, I can't believe so-and-so is making me do this. No one makes you do anything. Everything you choose. You know, one of my daily declarations for me and my clients, I have first, we do this mental and emotional release work to let go of what are all the subconscious blocks and beliefs that you have about yourself, others in the world that are stopping you from living the life that you want. And once you free yourself of that, we create these declarations of being, how you choose to show up. One of mine, I am free from have to, supposed to, need to, must do, and should do. I choose to, or I don't. Because have to, supposed to, need to, must do, and should do are all made up. There is nothing that I have to do any of those. Like it's everything's I choose to or I don't. And then I delude myself with a story about why it's one of the five.
Mhm.
It's not. And so when you come from that space, really think about that. Anything that you tell yourself, I have to do this. No, you choose to. You get to. I have to pay taxes. No, you're just choosing not to go to jail. Or it's like you're in real estate. I have to pay taxes. You just don't know how to 1030 the exchange, you know? Or
Right.
I have to take care of my kids. No, you're choosing to. Because whatever the alternative is, you don't want that. So
Right.
you're choosing the thing that you're doing. I have to, you know, I have to not hit the snooze button. No, you choose to, and if you choose to hit it and go back to sleep, that's your choice. Take the ownership of your life, empower yourself, stop giving your power away by saying that my commitment, my integrity, my word is on anybody other than you. Like it's all on you. And that's so empowering. That's the good news. That's the best thing you could possibly hear today. Because if you don't like any aspect of your life and you take this podcast conversation and you re-listen to it and you apply it, the things you don't like start to change into the things that you like. And some of those things will change really quickly. Because it might just be one conversation. Hey, Mary, I'm actually not going to be available for that thing. I appreciate you offering it. You just cleared the calendar on Saturday. And now you feel so relieved because your weekend, you were dreading it. It's like you can fix it right now. Where are you out of integrity with others? And where are you out of integrity with you?
Mhm.
And when you fix that, it is truly incredible what happens in your life.
Awesome. I don't know if there anything else need to be said to wrap it up. So that's, number one thing is I've learned, just to add to it, is saying no. Although sometimes I do commit to or overcommit to things. Still, that pleasing part is still there sometimes. Whispering in my ear, like, oh, they'll feel bad, whatever. But I've learned to be more assertive now. But trust me, from someone who was that people pleaser, or still I am, I'm not going to say deny that portion of mine, it's still there, is when you start saying being assertive, people, I rarely get anybody complaining. So
Yeah.
with that,
Yeah. If I may add one thing,
yeah, go ahead, please.
what you just said, I rarely hear anybody complaining. You can be assertive in a respectful and loving way. And you can be assertive and you can be respectful and loving and assertive first and foremost for yourself and for everybody else. Because again, somebody who's asking you for something, yes, they're asking for help or they're making some request, but it's not your responsibility. And also, you're not the only person that they could speak to. So, for example, in the airport example, in the first one where you couldn't count on me because I said, maybe I'll try, we'll see how I feel when I wake up. Right when you got off the phone with me, what do? You call on somebody else.
Right.
And so I didn't give you the answer you wanted, and you got it from the next person.
Right.
So when you can recognize, like, you're not, your job is never to be the savior.
Mhm.
Some of us have, and I've seen a lot of people that I've worked with in this situation, there's like this savior complex. I have to fix people. I have to like be the one to help them change. It's got to be me. No, it doesn't. And the moment you free yourself from that, then you can say yes. And when you say yes, you genuinely mean it. The people that you say yes to are going to feel that. You're going to have a much better experience. Your yes is going to help more because you
Right.
actually want to be there. You actually want to do what you're doing. And your life experience is going to get so much better. And here's the beauty too. The thing that you're saying no to because it doesn't feel good to you, the next person or someone in the next 10 people they ask, it's actually going to feel great to say yes.
Mhm.
And so just like in business, like let's say you're going to delegate, there are things that you don't enjoy doing. Other people love those things. So you might hate like crunching numbers and being on Excel spreadsheets, and that's not your thing. You like people, you want to talk, you want to do all these things. But you hire somebody who hates doing like the public stuff and they love the computer stuff.
Mhm.
Now you pay them, you just freed up your time, and everyone's happy. Same kind of thing. There's somebody who would love to say yes to the thing that you're saying no to.
Mhm.
Let them do it.
Right.
That changes so much. And again, in the event that you decide to say yes regardless and you mean no, at least own it.
Yeah.
Don't blame them. Like, you said yes. So own it and then make the choice to make the best of it.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. Exactly. That's a great point. And yeah, like I've said yes to things that I didn't want to do it later. I found out later I didn't want to do it, but then already said yes. What are you going to do?
Yeah.
Follow through with your word. If you want people to know that you're your word, then that's what you do. You made it. It's difficult, but yeah, at times you do things difficult. Like, again, well, not going back to the same thing, commitment. When you make commitment, you kind of do things when it's not convenient for you. So that's how you're committed. So, all right. Well, you got
You know,
something else left?
yeah, just so there's two things there. So first of all, I appreciate everyone who's been listening, who stayed this far. I feel like on fire right now, just about commitment. And,
Me too, Potter.
and so yeah. And so this is the last part too. I live in a world of paradox. And what I mean by that is, one of my definitions of a paradox is two things are true at the same time that don't seem like they could be true at the same time. So on the one hand, it's like commitment's everything. And on the other hand, me breaking a commitment changed my entire life, and it's the reason why I am where I am today. And so without going into my full story, anyone who's heard my story, when I was 19 years old, my father had a brain aneurysm. I was home, broke a door down to get him out, and he survived 3 extra years as a result of that. And that experience changed my entire life, and it's why I do what I do today. That was like almost 11 years ago. Now, fast forward, that was on a Sunday. Fast forward like Tuesday of that week, I'm in college, I'm part of this pre-med group, and they asked me, we're in the Bronx in New York City, would you go to Albany with us, the capital, to fight to keep our funding? You're one of the students in the group, we'd love to have you. I said, yes, I'll be there. We're leaving Friday morning, we're coming back Sunday night. Wednesday-ish, Tuesday, whatever the day was, a couple days before, I started getting this feeling, something's not right, don't go. And I didn't know what that was. I brushed it off. I made a commitment. Next day, louder, something's not right, don't go. Still brushed it off. I made a commitment. The next day, it's yelling at me. We're leaving tomorrow. Something's not right, don't go. And it felt so strong that internally I knew I can't ignore this. I sent an email. Hey, I'm so sorry. Something came up. I won't be available this weekend. Now, when I wrote that email, nothing came up outside of this feeling. I didn't have anything planned. So I didn't go. So then Friday rolls around, the group leaves. I have a regular Friday. Saturday rolls around, it's a regular Saturday. By Saturday night, I'm sitting there thinking, well, I guess I could have went. Nothing happened. Maybe that feeling was nothing. Sunday morning, dad has his aneurysm. If I wasn't home, he would have died.
Mm.
So two things can be true at this, two or more things can be true at the same time. Commitment's everything, and there's good reason at times to break a commitment because there's something you're more committed to.
Yep.
And when you're recognizing that, can you balance those two? And you can, everyone can. If you can balance that, you will create such a beautiful life for yourself. Just get off the fence. Get off the land of maybe and we'll see and I'll try and procrastination, and actually live in the world of I am my word. When you live in that world, you can count on you, your family can count on you, anyone who wants to work with you can count on you. And when we can count on you, we want to be around you. We want you in our life. And I'll end it at that.
Yeah, no, that's a great way to end it. Yeah, I mean, nothing else need to be said. I'll be posting Dr. Jamil's, contact info for more powerful information or coaching or consultation. Talk to Dr. Jamil. I don't have to say any more. So you heard him. So listen to it once more again. Like I said, like he said, there's a lot of content in there if you want to. And this, I might make it a 2 podcast so that way people can get to listen fully. So anyway, thanks again, once again, Dr. Jamil. Thanks for the great conversation again.
Thank you so much, Raju. This has been such a pleasure. And every time we speak, I feel like it gets better and better. And this being our part 3, I'm just on fire for the next one.
All right. Yeah. Yeah. I have a part 4, but we'll talk about it later.